All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're diving into a clash that really defined an entire era of software, MySQL versus Oracle. Now, this isn't just some dry technical comparison, not at all. This is a story about two radically different philosophies, two worldviews that went head to head and ended up shaping the internet as we know it. And it all kind of boils down to this one central question. Right here, this is the heart of our story. I mean, how did this happen? How did a totally free, community-backed database manage to take on a massive corporate giant? And in the process, change everything? It's a classic David and Goliath story, but for the tech world, with a twist. The answer tells us so much about that ongoing tension between open source freedom and corporate control. So to really get it, we need to meet the two main players. So yeah, let's set the stage. This is truly a tale of two databases. You've got the open source rebel on one side, the disruptor that was all about community and making things accessible for everyone. And on the other side, the established enterprise titan, built on raw power, control, and, well, big contracts. Their very DNA was coded from opposing blueprints. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? It gets right to the heart of the matter. Choosing a database back then, it wasn't just a technical choice. It was a statement. It was a declaration of your company's culture and what you valued most. And this right here perfectly illustrates that cultural divide. I mean, look at MySQL. It was all about accessibility. Anyone could download it, install it, and start building something for free. It was fast, it was simple, and was driven by a passionate community. Oracle, though, a totally different beast. Oracle was the definition of enterprise grade. It was a powerhouse, absolutely packed with robust high-performance features, but all that power came with premium price tags and some seriously complex contracts. So with these two completely different game plans, how did each of them climb to the top? Well, here's the interesting part. They didn't really fight for the same turf, at least not at first. Instead, they each went off and carved out their own empires in very different corners of the tech universe. And you can see that split so clearly here. MySQL basically became the engine of the early internet. All the startups, the first SaaS companies, they absolutely loved it because it was free and super flexible. It powered a whole revolution, really. Meanwhile, Oracle became the trusted backbone for the world's biggest institutions. We're talking global banks, airlines, massive corporations that simply could not afford a second of downtime and needed every single feature you could imagine. So for years, these two giants pretty much stayed in their own lanes. But then came the moment that sent an absolute shockwave through the developer community. This is when their two worlds didn't just meet, they smashed right into each other. Let's just walk through this timeline because it's wild. By the early 2000s, MySQL is on top of the world, right? A huge, independent, open source success. But then in 2010, Oracle, the titan of closed proprietary software, buys Sun Microsystems. And guess what came with that deal? MySQL. The community was just stunned. The fear wasn't just about money, it was about control. The worry was that this corporate giant would slowly suffocate the open source rebel. And that fear directly led to the community taking matters into its own hands, creating what are called forks, like MariaDB, to protect the project's future. So, what exactly is a fork? You hear that term a lot in open source. Think of it like a safety valve. It's a really powerful idea. When a community loses faith in where a project is going, they can literally take the source code as it is and start a new, independent path forward. It's their way of saying, nope, we're going to preserve the original mission over here. And this gets to the absolute core of the tension. It's all about trust. Could a company whose entire business model was built on selling expensive software licenses really be a good guardian for a free, community-driven project? That was the big existential question hanging over MySQL for years. And honestly, it's a tension that still pops up in the open source world today. You know, this whole saga wasn't just corporate drama. It was basically a masterclass in software strategy and community dynamics. So, what did we actually learn from this collision? What are the big takeaways from this rivalry that ended up teaching the tech world so much? This table really breaks it all down nicely. For the open source model like MySQL, growth is all about being accessible and having the community's trust. Its strength, its resilience, comes from the community's power to just walk away and fork the project. For the proprietary model like Oracle, growth is fueled by those high-value contracts, and its resilience comes from having massive corporate backing. But maybe the biggest lesson of all is this. How a project is governed, who's in charge, and how decisions get made, that's just as important, maybe even more important, than the tech itself. And here's the final twist, and maybe the most important lesson. This didn't turn out to be a zero-sum game where one had to die for the other to live. Having both a powerful, free option and a super feature-rich commercial option, well, it forced everybody to get better. This diversity of models actually made the whole database world stronger and way more innovative. This phrase just says it all, doesn't it? What started out as this massive collision of two completely opposed philosophies eventually just settled down. It turned into a kind of coexistence. They both still dominate their parts of the world, and you know what? The tech industry is all the better for it. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. This story, it's not over, not by a long shot. As more and more giant companies buy up critical open source projects, the lessons from the whole MySQL and Oracle saga are more relevant than they've ever been. It really makes you wonder, what happens next? As these titans, both old and new, have to keep figuring out how to share the same world.